Welcome to my video for anybody who's looking for a weapon against the Philidor Defense. The Philidor goes against e4, e5, knight f3, and then d6. Now, I was looking through some openings that I could maybe analyze a bit, and I just went through the gambits list on Wikipedia, and then I found like this, the Bird Gambit after the exchange variation, which is the most played move in the Leech's database. If you consider like everything, blitz, bullet, classical, and rapid, and of course all elo stages, levels. And here comes the c3 move. Now, in the database from Leech's, usually like 8.2 million games have been played with knight takes d4, which is the best move. And then the second most played move with only one, or not only, but with 1.4 million games is queen takes d4. And then 800,000 games have been played with bishop c4, and only 380,000 games have been played with c3. So I think this can be like a really surprise weapon. It scores very well. It scores with 56.5% for white. Only for here it says 39.9% for black. So it can be tricky, I guess. First of all, the whole idea is basically like if you could play the Scotch Gambit or something to that he should take on c3 if he wants to play like for a critical line, and if he tries to get like the advantage, and which this is basically the main move. He can also of course play knight f6 first. We will look at this later. But first look at what happens if he just doesn't want to get into anything of this. So sometimes players think, okay, if we play a move like c3, then they want us to take on c3, right? Like if we flip the board and look at it from the black side, they say, okay, they want me to take on c3, or maybe to attack this pawn, right? So we play an offbeat move. For example, d5. This is not the best move. It's like okay, I would say. And for that, I would just say that you take with the queen on d4, which isn't the best move if you ask the engine. The engine wants you to take here, and then after you get like this game. And I can see that you get a good game here. For example, after knight f6, knight c3, bishop e4. But this is black gets what he wants, right? He castles, he gets his pieces out. So you basically have to play bishop e2 here. So that later bishop g4 is not so harmful for you. And then, like, let's say we play all of these moves, then you are objectively better here, but you can make mistakes, right? And after queen takes d4, he cannot play knight c6 because you just take on d5 with the queen. And here, I think you have more play, right? You kind of get into this endgame, and if you just straight play bishop c4, you castle quicker. Here, bishop d6. You could even, like, if you want to play a bit more aggressive, you could play a4, attack the typical thing if the knight is on b6 or g6, that you push side pawns. So this is possible. Here after queen b3 may be also playable. For example, that you take like this, and then he takes like this if you should take For example here. Then you can play bishop c4. And yeah, this is maybe a bit more tricky if you want to look further into this line. But d5 usually not played. Of course, like this looks not like a move that you want to play. As for example, knight e7. Here it's even easier to play. You just take, and then you get the whole center. d5 now, but after e5, knight bc6, like you have the center, you have the better development after like bishop f2, e2. Maybe you play h3 to prevent like this pin and stuff. You could also play bishop c4 and then play very aggressive, for example with knight g5. The only move that he has is d5, but again here you can play very aggressively. Queen h5, he must play g6, or else just queen takes f7 will happen. But now queen f3, and now again only move queen bishop e6, and now it's take on c3 with the attack on the rook. He has to move rook g8, and then yeah, you get this good position. Queen h3, for example, attack the e6 pawn, and here it's very good. Just to answer this question, why not queen f3 first? The problem is now that after bishop e6 there is no queen takes c3 with the attack on the rook on h8, so then you have to take, and this is a slightly better version for, well, not even slightly, it's a much better version for black. So knight e7 also not a move that you will see. Now in this position he should take, right? This is what we said. He should take and be just up a pawn. But here now comes the question if you play bishop c4 or knight c3. Both have their advantages. The ancient gives like they're pretty much equal. Depends on what the ancient thinks at the moment or how deep it looked into the position. But I would just play it simple, take on c3 and just say what you're gonna do, right? And after, for example, knight c6, there is this, you could play bishop c4 again, right? And after knight f6, queen b3, he has to play queen d7, which is kind of annoying. But the problem here, what I see is that he will just play knight a5 later. For example, if you castle, knight f5, and then after like here you trade, and now you attack is kind of gone, right? And you don't want to play, instead of castling, you don't really want to play queen c2, right? So just play queen c2 first, so there's no knight a5, and you will play bishop c4 maybe later on, and a continuation would be like knight f6, bishop e3, bishop e7, and here, very funny, the problem is you want to castle long, but you cannot do this right now because, like, first of all, the spin here would be annoying. Knight g4 maybe is even a bit more annoying. For example, if you want to stop knight a4 with a3, then there's knight g5, and what you're gonna do with the bishop right here. Now this is attack. It will just castle, and okay, you could try to play this, but it's just much easier to prevent this right away with h3. Knight b4 is not really a problem. You can just, let's say, castles, play a3 now, and then after bishop e6, castle long, and the position is pretty much equal. But I like the attacking chances from white. The pawn is on e4, while the black pawn on d pawn is on d6. Your bishops are, I think, a bit more active, and I just think that you have better attacking chances right here. Black has to play very precise to be better here. Now, if we should play knight f6, I think the same goes here. You play queen c2, overprotect the pawn, and basically get the same bishop e3, just without this knight c6 that there's no knight before and stuff. Knight c6 now, h3, and if he now goes knight b4, which is a good line here, you can just go queen b3. And now what does black want to do? I guess a5 is the move that I thought when I analyzed it, but here you have e5, right? The pin of the pinning the pawn is the pin off from the rook is very annoying. Bishop e6 counterattacking the queen, but here you can just play bishop c4, and after the trade, there's the knight is attacked. Knight goes back to e7, and now here bishop takes. Now you have knight b5 attacking the pawn, the bishop, I mean, and then here, yeah, let's say like this. You still have a good game. Now here you cannot because of queen takes d6. So I guess this is a nice variation. For example, even you have ideas with after knight f6 to play rook d3, doubling up. Maybe play rook e1. Depends on what black plays. And I think this is just very nice to play. Even though your king might look a bit open right now, I don't think that this is like a really big problem. Your pieces are very well placed, and you just need to try to coordinate them a bit more. So going back here and answering the question what to play if he plays knight f6, there are multiple things you could play. You can't just take on d4 with the queen. But okay, now this knight on d1 is kind of silly, right? Knight c6, queen a4, bishop d7. Now, this is playable. You have a bit like of a Scandinavian for white. But playable. This is okay. You can't play bishop d3 and then take with the knight. And you have kind of the same position, right, as before. Now you can just castle. And maybe the only thing that you really have to look out is after knight e5, what to play here. Knight h3, bishop f4 maybe even. And then like this. Here you can even play e5, playing a bit more aggressive because of queen a4. Everything is basically possible. You can even play queen c2 here in this position and basically get the same position as before, just transpositioning into this line. So again, what is like really the conclusion? I think this is again a very good line for white, gambiting a pawn for like development and a good attack, trying to castle opposite sides very quickly, attacking, and as we have seen in this position, it's not so easy, I think, to play this for black. Now, with a win rate from 58 after d takes c3, this looks very good. There is nothing really that you have to really learn here. You just play by instinct and from like tactical patterns. And yeah, this is basically it. Again, if you have openings or lines, specific lines that may be a bit dubious, or are just interested if you can play it, or if you have like, if there's like no video about it or no resources that you can find, except like some old chess.com forums where you can maybe see, oh yeah, somebody analyzed like this very bad line there and just said, yeah, he discovered it, but at the end you just find out that this line already has a name and somebody lost with it. So that's not very useful. But this was it for this video. Again, I would like to see comments on which opening or line that I could analyze. And I will say that we will see us in the next video.